Episode number 61 of Making a Case. What's wrong with being average? Hey, let's get it. Hey, what up, Mike? Hey, welcome back to another episode of Making a Case. I'm sorry, I'm just being silly. Episode number 61. What's wrong with being average? Hey, I'm your host, none other than Dr. Jacob Isom, educated speaker, entrepreneur, content creator, father, a little bit of everything, man. Hey, we back at it again. Um, well, you know what? Before I get started, let's go ahead and get our channel norms out the way. One, we attack points and not people, and two, we don't do all that cussing and derogatory stuff. We like to keep it professional over here. Thank you once again to those of you that check us out. We on 3 times a week. Of course, we're trying to, increase that. But we gotta, get them subscribers up, baby, because, I'm a busy man. So we got to make it worth it. All right. So, but we'll get there. I'm not worried about that. Without further ado, let's get into my opening statement. What's wrong with being average? Now, let me tell you the reason why I really wanted to do this episode is because to me, I hear people either saying that they're not average or based off their actions, you could tell like they really think that they're more than what they are, right? And actually, one of my pieces of evidence is going to actually explain to you what we actually call that. That'll be towards later on, towards the end of the video. But I think a lot of people are disillusioned with the fact that they're average, right? And I feel like a lot of people take offense to being average. There's a reason why we call it average, right? There literally is a curve, right? And it goes a little something like this. It starts here, then it goes back down, right? So literally that hump that you see that looks like a hill, that's most people, right? You get some people here that is, below, and then you got some people here that's above, but most people are in that hump. All right. So now, and even speaking with that, we're not most people are not average at all things, right? Some things I'm above average, some things I'm below average, but most things, guess what? I am average, and that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that, If you are in the average range, that means you're doing and you're at where you're supposed to be, right? Most people live in modest dwellings. Most people drive very modest cars. Most people are in a relationship with someone that looks very modest. They're not in a relationship with a model, right? So we can literally look and observe everyday people and see that we're average people. So it trips me out when people feel like the word average or even normal is just something offensive. So I want to dedicate this episode to really covering why it's okay to be normal, or I should say average. Why it's nothing wrong with being average, and why most of us are average. And like I said, we're not average at everything. Some things that like we're really great at, right? Like I can't draw worth a lick. I'm below average when it comes to drawing, right? But I like to think of myself as a above average writer, right? One and a above average reader because I do those two things the most, right? It's no different like with a sport, right? If you keep doing it, repetition is the father of learning, right? You keep doing it over and over, you're gonna get pretty good at it, right? While some things come natural for us, most things we're gonna have to put in the work in order to get pretty good at it. So, um, So with my piece of evidence, we're really going to, get into, why being average is the operational mode, right? Most of us is average. All right. So hopefully I'll make you feel better by the end of the episode. You won't feel like being called average or being average is disrespectful or some kind of knock on you. Um, no, you don't want to be stagnant. You don't want to be complacent, but at the same time, you also want to be realistic. All right. So, without further ado, let's go ahead and get into our first piece of evidence. Why not? All right. All right. So for my first piece of evidence, I have a article from one of my faves. Y'all already know if you've been rocking with me, The Medium. And this article is titled "There is nothing wrong with being average." All right. So we're gonna see what they have to say about being average, see if it make you feel better. So let's get into it. Here we go. Terms like average and mediocre are thrown around so much these days in a derogatory manner. See, I told you. The way people talk about them is if they're worse states than actually being bad or terrible at something. Right. People say that mediocrity is unacceptable, that you should strive to be the best version of yourself, never settle, and always be seeking to improve your life in some capacity. Well, I agree, but once again, the average exists for a reason, right? So we gotta actually keep that in mind. This makes logical sense. I ask though, is it ever a bad thing to be average and mediocre? Based on the title of this article, you know that my answer to this is no. This is because when you understand what average means, it ceases to be a bad thing. What it actually means to be average. I think there are some false equivocations going on when we use terms such as average. Regarding data, the raw definition of average refers to the mean point in a data set. It's a value from a data set that can be extrapolated that becomes an indicator of one that occurs with typical frequency, right? That's all average means, right? That it occurs over and over and over. The reason why something is called tradition is because it occurred over and over and over. The reason why a lot of things are set up in culture is because it happens over and over and over, right? That's the only thing it means. So we really need to chill out with this whole feeling some type of way about being called average. Um, we add up all the values up, divide the total by the amount of values that are there are, and boom, we have our average or our mean, right? If we talking about numbers. Thus, any person that falls within a range of that value will be considered average. That definition of average is frequently conflated with another definition of average, that which is ordinary, everyday, expected, etc. This does not refer to statistical frequency and data points as much as it does to an assessment of one's ability. For example, he's an average singer, which I don't even know what an average singer would be, but he's average at playing the piano. I don't know that either. His life is pretty average. Now, I get a better gauge with what someone would say of his life is pretty average. And actually, I got a piece of evidence that's going to talk more about that. So we'll get to that here in a second. But there's the rub. Is there something bad about being ordinary or typical skill? Firstly, the chances are that you are average at a lot of things. Identify your main hobbies and then consider the things that you don't do in spare time. Chances are that if you pick one of these things up, you will fall in the average range at it. I'd even wager that amongst hobbyists, there are plenty of people who are average at the things they love. Hey, I love bowling. I'm an average bowler, right? Even though I tell my friends that you know, I'm gonna give them that business, which I typically do. So if they ever watch this episode, they already know what it is. But I'm a below average pool shooter. I like shooting pool, but I'm just not great at it, but I don't practice enough. So it is what it is. I have a more natural talent and gift at bowling. I don't know why. I don't know. That's not me having a dig. That's me speaking with respect to statistical frequency. And you know what? That's absolutely fine. Right. Some people loathe the idea of being ordinary, having an expected degree of talent at something. They reject mediocrity at all costs, saying shooting for the stars is the only acceptable way forward. And I say that's fine as long as they enjoy the path towards being above average or excellent at said thing. Right. Which you're not going to be excellent at everything. You just got to get over yourself. However, if you enjoy your ordinary born life and you enjoy your pursuits, even if you're average at them, is that a bad thing? Should we hate average so much that we avoid it so fervently? Right? Like, to be honest with you, I live a very boring life. I'm gonna be real with you. I work. I work a lot. I work all the time. There's very little fun that I have in my life. And the little fun that I do have is very rare. And usually it's going on vacation because I love to travel. Okay. So I'm okay with being boring. I think most people are. Well, let me say this. I think older people are okay with being boring. Younger people always got to turn up and do something, right? But, the older you get, the more you're like, I want to be at home. So, never settle, always be the best. In my eyes, the well of leisure has been poisoned. In modern society, it seems that people simply cannot have hobbies anymore. If someone does something creative in their spare time, inevitably someone will ask, when are you going to start making money with this? That's such a true statement. Monetizing your work is not inherently a bad thing. However, it creates this expectation that for any activity you do, there must be this grander purpose for it beyond simple enjoyment. That one thing that one should be improving wherever possible because it's impure to settle for less, or that failing to earn money from it's a waste of time and unproductive. Now, I will say this. I do like making money just like anybody else. And to me, if I'm going to be putting my time in, I do want to see how I can monetize. But I get his overall point that, everything is not about money. But, money just makes you feel better. Let's just be real. Money makes you feel good. So, but I get the overall gist of what he's saying. It's time to take back hobbies for what they should be, having fun. Now, I do agree with that. In video gaming, there's a term known as min-maxing, or the meta, that relates to this idea of being the best. These terms allude to when a player plays a game in the most efficient way possible, utilizing strategies that reliably lead to ease and success. Beating the game with ease can be satisfying. However, getting to the point where you're turning the game into a strategy to complete it in an optimal way can sap the fun out of it. It becomes a chore. Seeing it has something to win, the level grinding, the farming for items, completing all missable side quests until you can get to the good parts, to name a few. Look, I recognize that life is not like a video game, although there's a lot of similarities. I realize that doing well at life leads to stability, comfort, etc., and that the things that do not always come easy. It's like the paradox of happiness. Constantly chasing happiness will cause it to elude you. Sometimes you only need to let it in right here, right now. Let's see. I don't want to enjoy life. Yeah, that I think he made his point. That was a pretty good article, right? I think he made his point on why, hey, this is the definition of average. This is what average means. Most of us are average, so it's no need to, feel some type of way. We're going to be below average in some things and above average in other things. And guess what that is? It gets us back to the average. Hey, makes sense to me. All right. Hey, let's get into our second piece of evidence. If I haven't convinced you already that being average is okay, let's get into our second piece of evidence. All right. So we're moving on to piece of evidence number 2 of why is nothing wrong with being average. We have an article from my second favorite platform, Psychology Today, and it's titled "The Upsides of Being Average." All right, so there are benefits to being average, or at least this article is proclaiming to have benefits. So we're going to see what benefits this article has to share with us. All right, so here we go. Most psychological traits are normally distributed, which means that around 65% of people will have average intelligence, personality, memory, happiness, leadership potential, creativity, and so on. Unfortunately, this does not mean they are aware of it. Most people rate themselves as better than average on any desirable trait, which of course is statistical impossibility. All right. The number one thing is looks, right? A lot of people think they look way better than they really do. Okay. It is what it is. Perhaps most strikingly, telling someone they are average is akin to insulting them and will likely offend a large number of people. Indeed, many people will prefer to be unique, but in a bad way, than to be normal in a good way. That's an interesting way to put it. Let me read that to you again. Many people will prefer to be unique, but in a bad way, than to be normal in a good way. That's crazy to me. This need for uniqueness is a common symptom of narcissism, which has been rising steadily during the past century. Well, we hear about it all the time, right? Even though I think a lot of people don't understand what narcissistic traits are and is, because only about 10% of Americans are actually considered narcissists. But let every woman on the internet tell you every man she done dealt with is a narcissist. Even though I think there's just as many narcissistic women as there are men, if not more. So, um, the narcissism epidemic explained the substantial increase in people's desire to be famous or special or to stand out from the crowd. Consider this: in the 1950s, only 12% of college students described themselves as an important person. By the 1980s, the figure had risen to 80%. That is insane. But it makes sense to why everybody wants to be on the internet. Everybody wants to start a YouTube channel. Everybody has some kind of information or they want to do something to be known and be looked at. It makes so much sense. So, contrary to popular belief, there are many advantages to being and even feeling average. If you want to avoid most physical and psychological illnesses, being average is one of your best options. Pathology is generally associated with statistical infrequency. Even desirable characteristics, ambition, sociability, confidence, and conscientiousness are problematic when exacerbated or taken to the extreme. Ambition turns into greed, sociability into exhibitionist, attention seeking, confidence into arrogance, and conscientious into obsessive compulsive behavior. As Rob Klasler's too much of a good thing effect suggests, very high scores on these and other desirable traits are as inconvenient and counterproductive as very low scores, so you are just better off being average. Further, since you probably are average on most qualities anyway, feeling average would translate into high self-awareness, which is far better than a much more common alternative, overconfident delusion. Now, I never heard that before, but it makes so much sense, right? So there's so many people that literally think that they are bigger, better, stronger, what have you, than they really are. That does lead to delusion. Like we talk about delusion when it comes to women, right? But men are delusional as well, right? So let's not get it twisted. I think we get women are more delusional on the dating aspect. Men are more delusional on the social aspect, as far as like likability and how strong they are and things of that nature. So we're both delusional, but it didn't really hit me until I'm reading this article is that a lot of us are delusional because we really don't want to be average. Light bulb, right? Let's see. Yeah, I already read that. I don't even know. All right. Of course, on a more granular level, genetics, biology, subjective experience, etc., we are all unique, just like everyone else is. Self-help tests designed to embrace our uniqueness, just be yourself, are therefore quite comedic. How could we possibly not be ourselves, and what sort of pathetic achievement would that constitute anyway? As Oscar Wilde noted, everybody else is already taken. The glorification of nonconformity and unconventionality, a bastion of our consumerist society, is an effective decoy for making people feel special while they are nudged into doing, thinking, and buying like everyone else, right? Like everyone wants to be so special. We want to be so unique, right? Like people will literally be seeking partners and be like, yeah, I'm special, or I got this and I got that. And it just, you average, bro. Like, you know what I'm saying? But it's okay. It is okay to be average. All right. Needless to say, the world optimized for average people. The world is optimized for average people. Nothing would function if the majority of us were outliers. But it's nice to think that while everyone else is the same, we are celebrated for being different. To be clear, the world's progress depends on those who stand out via their exceptional and innovative contributions. But these individuals are part of the top 1% in their field. Albert Einstein, Isaac Newton, right? Combining truly unconventional levels of talent, work ethic, and focus. For the remaining 99% of us, the acceptance that our talents and motivation are much more conventional and unlikely to result in world changing accomplishments will reflect a healthier, more rational self concept than illusions of grandiosity or fantasized talent. Except when such delusions may help you persuade others that you are great or that you can make America great again, right? Hey, I believe that I'm a talented individual. I believe that I'm an intelligent individual, right? I may fit in a certain bracket that is a little bit above average, right? But I'm not going to sit up here and say that I'm on Albert Einstein level or Isaac Newton or Rene Descartes or Carl Jung. I mean, I can keep going on and on about some very brilliant scientists and psychologists, right? So, I mean, it kind of is what it is. Like, you got to find your own lane and drive in it. Keep straight, don't swerve, right? So find your lane, man. Find your purpose and do that, man. And then try to be as great as you can in your own lane. It's okay. All right. Although accurate self views are generally preferable and more adaptive than distorted ones, there is a sound evolutionary explanation for the prevalence of diluted self views. In a world where it is increasingly difficult to judge other people's talent with precision, overconfidence enables people to fool others into thinking that they are competent. It's always easier to deceive others when you have already deceived yourself. What do I say at the end of all my videos? The worst thing you could do is lie to yourself. When you didn't already deceived yourself, man, it's so easy to do it to others, as they have just proved. However, the personal benefits of self-deception come at a high price. When people with fantasize rather than real talents rise to position of power and influence, their career success is offset by the collective failure of others. For nobody benefits when the incompetent people succeed except the incompetent themselves. Man, hey, they are spitting bars, man. Bars. When on the other hand, we're actually capable of judging how talented and capable other people are as opposed to being fooled by them. We make them pay a price for their delusion. Most people don't have a problem with people who are average, except when they are entitled or detached from reality. We're more likely to appreciate people when they are more competent than they claim to be, but there is nothing charming in those who are their biggest fans. A modest person of average talent is usually more likable than a self-important person of average talent. Unless you are able to persuade others that you are as special as you think you are better off assuming that you're average. Fake modesty is a much more civilized alternative to genuine vanity, particularly in educated circles. Man, hey, bro was spitting bars. I'm just gonna say that. Like, I mean, he was really breaking it down. Like, because really, what we're looking at is we seeing that we living in a society in a world full of, and I won't say world. I think this is more of a Western problem than anything. Just like a lot of other things are more of a Western issue of us really living in our own delusion, right? Like, like we don't even want to admit to ourselves that we average. We don't want to admit that, hey, we fall in the fray in the pack just like everybody else, But hey, I have a roof over my head just like most people do. I'm cool with that. And I think you are too, I eat pretty decent just like most people do. And I think you cool with that. So come on, man. Like we got to get over this, right? It's really ego, self-aggrandizement, all that good stuff, man. Like, so we got to get over ourselves, right? Worst thing you can do is lie to yourself. Hey, so let's go ahead and move to our next piece of evidence. Actually, I got 4 pieces of evidence for you. So let's go ahead and get to our third piece of evidence. All right, so piece of evidence number 3. Why is nothing wrong with being average? Um, we're using the platform Big Think, and I first got introduced to Big Think probably 3 weeks ago. Actually, I saw their videos where they bring on experts, and they kind of talk. It reminds me of TED Talks, if you're familiar with TED Talks, but a little bit more, um, let's say, what word am I looking for? A little bit more intimate with just a camera and a person, right? More like interview style, right? But they definitely have some great information since I've been kind of pulling up their articles. And the article title of this article is "What Does the Average Human Do Every Day?" Right? So we're talking about average. Well, what does an average person do? And I'm wondering if what we're about to go over kind of fits what you do and what I do on a daily basis. So let's get into see if it does. All right. Let's see. Oh, my bad. Let me go back up because I don't want to skip that. Every day, the planet, roughly 8 billion people collectively experience 190 billion unique hours of human life. In a recent analysis, researchers from McGill University aggregated years of data to map out the average human day. By assembling this human chrono, the researchers hope that we can make more informed decisions about how we use our collective time. All right. So this is based off a study. This is where they're getting this information from. Roughly 8 billion humans live on the planet, and each one experiences 24 hours a day a little differently, but I imagine kind of similar, right? Especially when it comes to sleep, eating, work, right? That amounts to 190 billion unique hours of human life lived during each rotation of the Earth. While each of us has a decent conception of how we spend our time, the actions of our fellow humans, from our next door neighbors to people living in faraway countries, can seem quite mysterious. They do watch as much TV, work as many hours, fiddle with their smartphones as frequently, cook as often, spend as much time watching their kids. Simply stated, what does the average human do every day? 9 hours of sleep, 2.6 hours of work. Well, I don't get 9 hours, but in an unprecedented analysis published in 2023 in the Proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences, researchers from McGill University attempted to answer that question. They aggregated data from 145 countries collected between 2000 and 2019. The data, including time use survey, NASA statistics of employment and working time, and international records of youth education and employment. This Herculean effort revealed what the researchers termed the global human day. That is, a complete estimate of what humans are doing, average over time across their entire population. That is a lot of work. So, what does this global human day look like? First and foremost, the average human spends about 9.1 hours sleeping or resting. Notice they average, right? Some of you sleep less, some of you may sleep more. I'm assuming since I see a baby that this may include like infants, children. So I know I'll probably get between 6 or 7 hours. So close. All right. Um, that might seem like a lot to the sleep deprived adults out there, but remember that the study included data from children, young and new. See, I just need to keep reading. My bad. All right. So that does include newborns, which can easily sleep a good 10 hours, right? Straight. At least we hope for those of us that have newborns. While awake, the average person spends close to 1/3 of their day on passive, interacting, and social activities. These roughly 4.6 hours include reading, watching TV, making art, playing games, going to gathering with friends or family, or simply doing nothing at all. Eating and food preparation counts for another 2.5 hours. Before I go on, I wish I did have that 4.6 hours. See, I fall a little bit below it. I fall maybe like 2, 3 hours, maybe. I feel like because other time I feel like I'm sleeping, eating, and working. I don't have much downtime, so um, don't feel sad for me though. All right, because I'm getting to this money. All right. Where are we at? Oh, hygiene, including grooming, washing, and dressing, takes about 1.1 hours. Cleaning and maintaining the space we inhabit costs us zero point 0.8 hours of the day. Though in a, though employment can be hugely time consuming for working individual when looked at through a lens of the global human day, it appears as a mere silver of time, just 2.6 hours. A sliver of time, my bad. Education also isn't very demanding, only 1.1 hours. I could tell you that for this guy. And fascinatingly, crafting goods, building home and infrastructure, and mining and gathering the requisite materials for these endeavors take zero point 0.8 hours of the average human day. Think about that. Our homes, all the things we surround ourselves with, and cities and towns where we live, require just 3% of our collective time to create. Yeah, who would have known? The researchers were also curious about how average human time usually changes with wealth. They found some glaring disparities. Residents of the highest income country spend about 1.5 hours each day than residents of the lowest income country on experiences such as meal, physical recreation, and general leisure activity. Additionally, people in the richest countries spend on average of just 5 minutes a day growing and harvesting food, while people in the poorest countries spend well over an hour doing so. Yeah, that makes sense. I'm trying to see if on this talking about the Human Chronome Project where they got all these stats from. Um, yeah, no. So that is. I just wanted to read that because that is what the average person, based on worldwide data from newborns to, you know, your elderly of what a human day looks like, right? And when you really break it down like that, you're like, man, like, so we really don't spend that much time on certain activities like we think we do. But remember, this is the average, right? The average. So of course, some of you sleep less, some of you work more, etc. Right? Because I fit what I literally just said. So, but when you take the whole scheme of things, this is what an average person look like. But at the end of the day, what it really shows you is that we do the same things, right? It didn't even mention going to church. I don't believe. Right. I think it did mention like as far as food production, right? People worship, people eat, people sleep, right? People do recreational activities, go to school. We all literally do the same thing. Why are we trying to best each other? Why do we? I told my kids, I be asking them, I asked this question a couple times. Well, it was more of a comment than a question. Like, we literally want to feel like we better than somebody else. That's why being called average disrespects us. And we just got to be real with ourselves. All right. We always want to feel like we better than somebody else because guess what? We know somebody is better than us. It just is what it is. All right. So let's get into our last piece of evidence and we're going to wrap this episode.
Share. Do you ever wonder how you stack up to others? For example, in North America, if you're a male who is taller than 5'9" or a woman taller than 5'3", then you're above average. And if you weigh less than 88.3 kilograms and 74.7 kilograms, then you're below average. Worldwide, however, humans actually weigh 62 kilograms on average. If you read less than 12 books a year, you're below average, but avid readers likely inflate this number, with 4 books per year being the most common number reported. And if you can read faster than 300 words per minute, you're above average. Type more than 40 words per minute, and you're also faster than the majority. If you finished a bachelor's degree or higher, you're above average, but if you don't finish high school and you're from an industrialized nation, you're far below average with only about 10% not finishing. If you're a man who can bench press more than 135 pounds, you're stronger than many, and if you're a woman who can run a mile in less than 7 to 10 minutes, you're faster than the others. If that tires you out and you sleep more than 6.8 hours, you're getting more than the majority. And if to wake up you're drinking less than 3 cups of coffee per day, you're below average. Still thirsty? Most people drink 3 to 4 cups of water a day. Too much fluid make you pee? If you're urinating less than 6 times a day, you're below average. And if you have more than one bowel movement today, you're probably above average based on surveys. But these are not necessarily reasons for concern. The average person farts around 14 times a day, which is around 500 to 1500 milliliters. Have a family? If you end up having more than 2 kids in your lifetime in most of Europe and North America, you're above average, but if you have less than 6 children in Niger, you're below average. And if you're watching more than 5 hours and 4 minutes of TV each day, that's more than most. That's about the same amount of time the average person spends on their mobile device. But if you're a teen and spending less than 9 hours a day on media, you're actually under the average. The average person also simply touches their phone over 2,000 times a day. Think you're smarter than the average person or better at driving? How about having better health, memory, or being a better friend than the average person? Turns out the vast majority of people also think they're better than average in a phenomenon called illusory superiority. It's a cognitive bias where people overestimate their own abilities and qualities, with one study revealing 87% of students at a university surveyed rated their academic performance above the median. Interestingly, people with lower IQs tend to overestimate their IQ, while people who actually have above average IQs tend to underestimate them. Men are also more likely to overestimate their IQ by 5 points, while women underestimate theirs. Perhaps most shocking is that in cognitive tests, even the lowest scoring groups predict that they're above average, showing a strong illusion, and researchers believe it's because those worst at the task are also worst at understanding the skills required to do it well. This paper actually won a Nobel Prize in 2000. In the words of Charles Bukowski, the problem with the world is that the intelligent people are full of doubts, while the stupid ones are full of confidence. If you'd like to be above average, check out Skillshare, who has supported this video and is giving away a 2-month free trial to the first 500 of our followers that sign up. Skillshare is an online learning community for creators with more than 15,000 classes in design, photo, and more. Everyone can take a class, try a project, and even teach a class themselves with premium members.
All right, so that was my fourth piece of evidence. I just wanted to show you that because I just thought it did a cool little breakdown of the averages, and that's all we're talking about when we say people are average. Like, we just take a composite, we take the mean of what people do, divide it, and there we go. So that's all being average means. It's not a slight. It's not being disrespectful. um I mean, it's based off of literally the data, the facts, right? So, um, being average is it's okay, right? I'm not gonna tell you it's cool or what you should strive to be, but I'm saying it is what it is, right? Now, do we want to be great and do we want to be special at what we do? Yes, a lot of us do, right? I work very hard to, be the best content creator I can be the best author I can be the best speaker, whatever it is that I do. But at the end of the day, I'm probably average. Right now, am I working my way towards being great at all the things I just mentioned? Yes, of course, absolutely. And I might be close, or I might be nowhere near there, or I might finish my career as an average speaker, content creator, author, right? I just made. But if I land on average, then I'm cool with it, right? No, it's not about the money for me. It is about the influence. It is about the respect. But at the end of the day, I think we respect people that are average, right? Now, unfortunately, in our society, right, it seems as if we don't respect people that have average careers or average jobs, average looking and things of that nature. But it's because our perspective have been skewed for so long. Like, we literally think just because we have a viral video that we're something bigger than what we really are, you know? Um, even when it comes to entertainment, right? We think somebody dunking a ball in a hoop or throwing a ball is like way bigger than what they really are, right? Like they playing a sport that we've all have played. Most of us have played. Now, some are just playing at a high level, getting a lot of money, right? But that don't make you more important and more special, though. That just means that hey, you entertaining us on a level that a lot of people are not at. Okay, it's all about perspective, people. Okay. All right, so we're gonna end today's episode, man. Hopefully, you've gained a different perspective on what average means, and you don't feel like it's disrespectful. So, I don't think a lot of us are going around calling each other average, but hey, nonetheless, I just wanted to give a different perspective on it. Hey, once again, you already know. I appreciate you rocking with the boy, man. You already know. Like, comment, subscribe, my social media handle, my websites. If you want a consultation, rcdconsultancy.com is where you can leave your boy a message and let me know you want one-on-one group or what have you. Okay. So hey, as always, I'm you, you're me. Love always, love eternal. Remember, the worst thing you could do is lie to yourself. We've learned that in this video. Okay? Hey, I'm out. Deuces. One love.